I bought this Husqvarna Viking Designer Diamond Royale off eBay, and it's broken. So we want to see if we can figure out, one, can we fix it, or two, can we at least figure out what's wrong with it and figure out a path forward. All right, let's get started. The listing from this machine says that it's for parts only. It says, as seen in the attached video, the machine turns on and blinks, which means it most likely needs a new board. We'll ship out quickly. All right. So let's turn it on and see what we've got. There was no foot pedal or power cord with this machine. Luckily, I have some of those items. I'm also noticing that we don't have a bobbin case. Looks like it was kind of stripped down. All right. I mean, we got some lights up here. We got some noise. All right, we went through the calibration. Oh, I'm also noticing that the needle plate is the straight stitch only needle plate. Interesting. Okay. Screen never came on, so we got nothing on the screen. Let's try poking at it. Oh. Okay. So what we've learned is that the computer is working. So this thing did its self-calibration. I was able to, the touch screen portion of this is working, but the LCD is not working. So I can, whoa. Apparently poking at it made it work. Yeah, so we got a straight stitch plate in there. You can't do anything other than a straight stitch. Why did my screen all of a sudden come on? Is it because it warmed up? Let's see what happens if we turn it off and turn it back on again. Alright, well, this machine is fixed. See you next time. Okay, we're still going to take this machine apart and clean up contacts in there. So this could be a ribbon cable issue. It could be a multitude of things. So it could be temperature related. It could be capacitor related. Although I think on these newer ones, you don't have as many problems with capacitors, but we'll check it out. All right, well, I'm confused, but let's go ahead and get into the teardown. Yeah, I can already see this was a parts machine for somebody because the thread cutter is gone. Those are like gold. This particular thread cutter breaks all the time, and Husqvarna Viking doesn't have any more of them, so we won't have a working thread cutter in this machine. I just realized that this machine is an emergency. A Husqvarna Viking emergency. And I believe that since this is an embroidery machine, I believe we're going to be using all three of these. But we shall see. Alright, there's the screw that needs the third one. So that's the T15. Well, would you look at that? Remember what I was saying about a parts machine? There is no motor in this machine. Wow. That's impressive. Okay. This was definitely somebody's... It was in a shop. So there's a shop because they've taken a couple of parts because the screen wasn't working very well. They took a couple of parts that... Wow. That's pretty awesome. I'm glad I bought this and not somebody else. But it does say for parts only. Said that in the ad. They just didn't kind of disclose all of the issues. Yeah. Now I have motors. I don't have those thread cutters. You know, it's one of those things that I wish I could make those and sell them, but that's a more difficult thing for those thread cutters. So here's our display unit. We already know that this machine, so one, we'll never get the thread cutter to work because I won't be able to find that part. Two, so I know that I have motors that will fit this machine because it's the same motor that's used in the Designer SE, and I have those around. They float around my shop all the time. So what we might do is pull this whole assembly out and just kind of take a look at it. There's two things you need for an LCD to work. There's a backlight on the LCD, and so if that backlight isn't working, then you can't see the screen. Even though the screen's on and displaying perfectly, you wouldn't be able to see it. I looked at the main board. They don't use the old type of capacitors on there, so it's probably not a capacitor problem, but you can't rule it out completely. Yeah, I want to tear this whole thing down, and then every connector that I put together, we're going to put together using some deoxit. So this stuff is really good at cleaning connectors, removing oxidation, hence the name deoxit. So yeah, we're going to pull this whole thing apart and see what we can find. TDK, I haven't seen them in a while. They used to make cassette tapes, and I think they made big old floppy disks back in the day. So this connector down here goes to that front touchscreen, and yeah, the 4-wire touchscreen. Those are items that I sell. I don't sell this particular size, but we know that this touchscreen works. But the touchscreen is the glass on the front. It's clear, and it's what registers where you're touching on the screen. Then we have this little connector right here. So the two of these are going to the LCD. This one, I'm pretty sure, is going to be your data to provide the video signal, and this one might be the power for the lights, the LED lights. Well, yeah, there might be LED for the lights to so that you can see the LCD screen. So we're going to pop the little lock thing right there, and then we're going to pop this around, and then this thing will come out. So we've gotten everything off of that board. We're looking for an intermittent problem now because we know that the screen, it decides to work when it wants. That's why I lean towards possible electrical connections. So all these connections here will get some deoxit when we put it back together. Uh-oh, that's smaller than my T10. Husqvarna Viking is very consistent in their design. That's why I made that box with the tools, because these 3 tools get you into almost every Husqvarna Viking. They've been very consistent in their design in that they, you know, you always use the same tools to open them up. So they're very helpful for the technicians. And I would think that the other company that owns them would take some of that into account for their own use. And I'm talking about Singer, Viking, Pfaff. They're all owned by the same company. Alright, so we've got this one out. Now I do have replacement cables for these. This doesn't actually look too bad. Maybe we'll replace it anyway. I don't know. Alright, so we've gotten this far. Now I'm curious. So I know that this machine is, if I break it, it's not a big deal because I can't sell it as a regular machine. Maybe it'll get given away to somebody, but they're not going to have a thread cutter. And they might have a dodgy screen. But since we're here, I mean, we might as well go deeper, right? I'm realizing now the thumbnail is probably going to say something about scammed. Oh boy. Is that where we are now? Yeah, probably. We're probably in that territory. If it's a seller that I'm going to have to write down their name to stay away from, for myself, I'm not going to trash their name, because it's possible that the person who's selling this didn't know. It's also possible that they absolutely did know. But I'm not in the business of calling out people. I'll leave that to someone else. I want you to be here to have fun, not get all upset about somebody. All right, let's see here. Okay, now our issue could be in here. The reason I went this far was I kind of want to see, to prove that this is for the light. And it looks to me like the light is back along here. I'm just not sure if I want to go deeper to prove one way or the other. Hey, mess up. Oh, string off. Well, you ever see one of those? This is where all the dust falls on here and makes it all dusty. But again, I'm looking for the connection to the light, and I am not deep enough to see that, but I'm also not comfortable to go any deeper. So since we're on this rabbit hole, these numbers right here is how you can order one of these. Yeah, quick search reveals nothing. So my only concern with this is this connection right here looks to me to be a little crooked. And I don't know if that's a connector in there or if it's hardwired. So anyway, I think we're done playing around. So it's time to put this all back together. This deoxit is made to go on electrical components, so it's safe to be on all this stuff, and it's okay if it spills out on other stuff around. I'm just gonna wipe up a little bit of extra. Well, I should have known the bobbin case was garbage on this machine too. It had one in the accessories tray, and yeah, it was garbage. Okay, we're gonna turn on, we're gonna see if we can make a stitch on this machine. We are 2 for 2 with that screen coming on. Yeah! Technically, I guess 3 for 3. Wonder if we're going to find anything else wrong with this machine. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Does the motor even do anything? Yes, it does. Ha ha ha! Okay. We're just going to try this on a random piece. Alright. That's reverse. That's really fast for not having a foot pedal. Oh, thread cutter doesn't work, so yeah. That tension looks pretty good. I wish I could do some other stitches, but I don't have that stitch plate. So let's see. In order to get this machine up and running, we have to have, number one, a thread. So here's our summary on this machine, what we have all together. So the machine sews very well. Haven't tested zigzag or that sort of thing, so those are things we've got to still check. What did we replace so far? So we replaced the motor, we replaced the bobbin case, we replaced a ribbon cable for the screen, and we cleaned all the connections for the screen to get that. It seems to be working, so every time I come out here it's still on, and it's still working, but you don't really know until you use the thing a lot, you know, and maybe bang on it. I don't know. What does this machine need? So it still needs a foot pedal, power cord, which I have power cords, but it needs a zigzag needle plate, and it needs the plastic bobbin cover for this machine to be to the point where it'll be good enough where I think somebody else could be able to use it. So how much money do we have into this machine at that point? Well, we paid about $220 plus shipping plus taxes, so it was probably somewhere around $280 or so that I paid for this machine. And it still needs $100 worth of parts in order to be to the point where I would feel comfortable giving it to someone to use. Because of the screen, like, this thing needs to be used a lot before I would say that it's fixed, because the screen is an unknown for me, whether or not that's a long-term fixed or not. So I can't sell this, and if I were to sell it on eBay, similar ones have gone for over $1,000, so that's not bad. I would be able to make my money back. However, I'm not going to sell it to someone I don't know when the screen is like this. If I know somebody I'm selling it to, well, even then I wouldn't sell it. I'd have to let somebody use it, and then after a while, if it still worked, then I could sell it, but then I've already let somebody use it. And anyway, for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable selling this machine to somebody, so that's where I just leave it at that. So where does that leave us with this eBay machine? Well, the machine was not exactly as advertised, which is a real bummer. But I did buy it knowing that it was a parts machine and it's sold as is. So sometimes you got to expect that that's going to happen. We did get to the point where it looks like we have this machine working, and if I bought this to use it myself, it would be great, because I can get this machine working for another $100. So totally, you know, you're less than $400 all in on the machine. And that's really good for this machine. That is a really good deal for this machine. So if you're using it yourself, that's an awesome deal. I personally can't sell this because I'm not sure about this screen, but that's just me. So yep, whenever you buy some on eBay that says as is and for parts only, they might be right.